Okay, well, let us get going on our e-bikes and biking refresher class today. Welcome, everyone. As Wendy said, I'm Doreen Redman with AARP North Dakota, and I welcome you to this Passport to Healthy Living event. For more than 60 years, AARP has been helping to bring great lives to folks as they age and live their best lives as they can. And we continue to do that with our Passport to Healthy Living program. So, okay, first we're going to start now with the biking refresher. And we have with us the League of American Bicyclists instructor, Al Thompson, who we recorded earlier. After this 9-minute video, Al's going to tell you about a whole bunch of great stuff. So stick with him. And Al is like almost 70, and he's been riding bikes for a long time around here. So we're going to look at this 9-minute video right now, and then after that we're going to be joined by Lynn and Carol Beiswanger from Bismarck, who are going to share their love of e-bikes. So sit back and relax and get ready to ride. We're going to look at the video now, and just keep in mind you might have to adjust your sound a little bit for the video if it's different from what you're hearing right now.
Hello, I'm Al Thompson. I'm a league cycling instructor with the League of American Bicyclists. I'm also an active member of the North Dakota Active Transportation Alliance. We are looking to keep people busy and active no matter what your age. And I'm from Mandan, North Dakota, and winter in Arizona, where you can stay active in the winter, but if you're well equipped with the winter gear, you can cycle all winter long in North Dakota. When you're choosing a bike, your best bet is going with your local bike shop. In this trying time, they have a little less inventory than usual, but they can point you in the right direction. As a league cycling instructor, we always want to work with our local areas that have the expertise and know what type of bikes are available and how to repair them in your area. Now, one of the things that you want to look for is how long you're going to be cycling, whether you're going to be commuting. Behind me, I'll just adjust this a little bit. I have a bike set up for commuting with a pack on the back. And a heavy rack to put it on. You have your light, of course. You happen to be at night. I like to have lights that will not flash like that. I think that makes it very difficult for drivers. I just like to see a light that you put on the back that just shows where you are, but doesn't have enough flash to cause a seizure for someone. Now, the headlight can be bright, or it can be a flashing. When I'm in Arizona, I notice that people use this type even when they're on the designated paths on the side of the highways. So when you're looking for your bike, you want to make sure that you have a proper standover height. You should be able to keep your feet firmly on the floor, on the ground, be able to, when you're on your seat, you should have a slight bend in your knee. This bike is a little short for me. There's the standover height, you should have just a half an inch or an inch. This is a little long, this is a little longer. The pedals that I have on these are the clip-ins type of pedal. Many people don't use those, but they are more efficient. This also has a big rack on the back where you can carry quite a few things. This has a fold down pannier. Of course, I happen to have spare tube and all those things that you have along when you're cycling. But you can use this if you need to carry things, if you need to grocery shop along the way. There's a spare water carrier along with your water bottles here. This is a bicycle that's set up for road use. Many people like off-road vehicle, and an off-road bicycle. You know, those have more of a upright handlebar and are able and have a fatter tire. These are a very thin road tire. Many people use a cyclocross bike or a commuting bike, which has a much thicker tire, has a little more cushion. And if you happen to have a off-road bike, of course, then you have the shock absorber here, which might improve your ride if you're bumping over those potholes that North Dakota seems to have plenty of this time of year. Now, one thing that I always recommend you have is an up-to-date helmet. This is a helmet that has protection in the back of your head, not like some of the old ones that just covered the top of your head. You can see that from behind. If you happen to hit your head falling backwards, this gives you some protection from the base of your skull. And you always want to be seen. I usually bring along fluorescent, and some of my clothes, of course, already have fluorescent material on them in the first place, so you're able to be seen. And if you're only riding on paths, that might not be as important. But if you're like me and you're riding on the designated streets that have bike lanes or on a regular road, you want to be seen by those vehicles, especially the ones with that are opening the doors. Now, I usually wear a chamois because a pair of shorts with a chamois in make this seat a lot more comfortable, especially early in the year where your butt is not quite in shape. And most people seem to like the shorts type rather than the Velcro. I guess I've switched to those over the years. And you do need some protection for the wind or the cold in North Dakota. So you can bring along a spare pair of pants, or you can have some leggings that you can put on and protect yourself from the wind and the cold. And in the summer, a good pair of light arm warmers. Now these will get someone's attention because you have the tattoo arm warmers to wear. And they will protect you from the sun. And I also happen to use a skull cap for those of us that are follically challenged. These spots in your helmet can really burn an interesting pattern on the top of your head if you're not careful. As a league cycling instructor, I always keep a pocket guide, the quick guide for smart cycling. We teach a smart cycling class, which is 14 hours over 2 days, usually. Most people in this day and age don't want to spend that much time learning how to ride a bicycle properly, getting, checking out how to repair or fix tires. But this quick guide gives you some interesting information on how you should share the trail, ride on the sidewalk, what the rules of the road are. It's good to get your information from AARP. They have many forms of information for an active person, whether you're 25 or 55 or like me, almost 70.
Oh, that was great. Al did such a good job on that video, and we really appreciate all the work that he does. He volunteers with the League of American Bicyclists and the North Dakota Active Transportation Alliance, and we thank him for his time in providing all these great tips and for us as we get to hitting the road and trails with our bikes this year. So I do want to mention, like you said, he's a volunteer with those groups, and we have some volunteer opportunities with AARP too. So we wanted to just post some of those today and let you have an opportunity to let us know if you are interested in helping us out with one of these volunteer virtual opportunities that we have available. We have a lot of different things that you could help with, things like sharing Facebook posts, and keep in mind any of this, we provide the training. We'll come online with you and walk everybody through everything in advance, how it all works, and do test runs, and we have a lot of fun with it. But being a virtual presenter, being the greeter, doing what Wendy did beforehand, and just some other things, serving as a discussion leader or a trivia game leader. We're going to be doing some of that this summer. So let us know if you'd like to help in any of those manners. We really appreciate it. So we'll leave that up for just a second, and you can think about that. And if you're interested, we'll get a hold of you afterward and talk about it afterward. But we think you might enjoy it, and we have a lot of fun with it and with our volunteers who help us out on these. So also, Al mentioned the Smart Cycling Guide, and this is available from AARP. There is no charge for this. You can go on, there was a link in your reminder email, and we'll put another link in the email that comes out after this event as well, so that you can take a look at this book. It's a number of pages. It's 30 pages, 30 some pages. Got a lot of great information in it, and it is free of charge. So from AARP, so you can find it there. And if you go to aarp.org and just search Smart Cycling, that will also pop up and you'll find it there as well. So now it's time for us to hear more about e-bikes or electric assist bikes from Lynn and Carol Beiswanger. We've been waiting for this. So Lynn and Carol, let's flip on your camera, and there they are. Awesome. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
And awesome. So we are just we are looking forward to hearing about your e-bikes, and you guys have just told us a lot about it in some of our practice sessions and all of that, but we are just so excited. So I'm going to let you take it away, and I will follow you with some slides that I have that when the time is right, you can let me know, and we'll move those along too. But let me introduce Carol and Lynn Beiswanger from Bismarck. Welcome, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before we begin, I would just wanted to begin with a little background about what our interest is when it comes to cycling. And mine started, I guess, when I was everybody rides as a kid, that's true. But as an adult, mine started when I was 43, I guess about 43 years old. And I remember I went to one of the local bike shops and I rode a Cannondale touring bike. And it was incredible. I went up my first hill with that bike and it was so effortless. It was you just cruised right up to the top, shifted so nice. It was so lightweight. And I fell in love all over with cycling again. And of course, it wasn't enough just to stop. I couldn't stop at just one bike. I ended up progressing into a road bike, and then finally I got into triathlons. And so I loved the competition. And so my next several years were spent in competition. And then finally, to kind of bring it all together, I became a certified cycling instructor here for both the Bismarck Y and Family Wellness in Mandan. And so that continues to propel my love and interest for cycling. So that's a little bit about my background. And so Carol?
My background hasn't been quite as intense. It's more for fun. Of course, growing up with the kids, it was be taking them for a ride when they used to have those little yellow things on the back of the bike. And then later on, just your average bike, I like to go outside, a good excuse to be outside. And I thought any bike with two wheels was good enough. And then later on, my son with my husband was also interested in biking and upgraded their bikes. And I couldn't believe the difference in having a better bike made in your experience of biking. Like Lynn was saying, it makes biking a little bit more effortless. And again, mine was just going outside and enjoying the ride. And when you're trying to squeeze in a few minutes here and there, I didn't like going out, coming back, being exhausted. And increasing our style of bikes made the ride more pleasurable.
All right, so I want to get into the e-bike section. E-bikes right now are one of the fastest growing bicycles across the world, actually, not just in the United States, but across the world. And the sales of them, I mean, it's hard to find them actually. And not just because of COVID, that increased it, the difficulty in purchasing or locating one, but just their popularity of all ages, not just as we're talking about as we age, but that's what our focus will be on today. And so there's three classes. I want to begin with, actually we broke our session out into three areas. So the first is just an overview. And then we want to look at the health benefits. And then finally, the one that Carol and I like the best is just fun to plane ride. And so we'll save that till last. But I think it's only fair to give you just a little overview. What is an e-bike? And so when we talk about e-bikes, we're talking about electric assist. And what is an electric assist? It simply means that, like Sunday when Carol and I were out riding, we're on the trail, and there's some little undulations, some little climbs. And it was so nice because as we're riding, we're in the same pedal stroke, but as we hit to the bottom, we start climbing, you can hear the little motor kick in, and it just assists us to the very top, and then we level out again and we roll on the flats and road. So what are the three classes? So the classification is so simple. It's class 1, 2, and 3. Class 1 is a pedal assist, which means you actually have to pedal. If you don't pedal, you're going to fall over, just like any other ordinary bike. So as you pedal, when you need assistance, just like I described what Carol and I went through on Sunday, that's what it is. That little motor kicks in to assist you. What you don't know, or what you may not know, is that the assist kicks out at 20 miles an hour with that particular bike. And so once you hit 20 miles an hour, if you're going faster than that, the motor drops off. Class 2 is a turbo. And so that actually has a turbo feature in it. So you use a throttle or a push button. Now, my experience with a turbo was several years ago. I actually was on a mountain bike, and I was riding in an area, it was out by Matahay, and I was just doing a demo, and I hit turbo, and that bike literally just took off. And I was holding on, and what was funny is you don't have to pedal. The turbo just goes and you don't have to pedal. So a little bit of difference. But the turbo kicks out again at 20 miles an hour, it will stop. You can still go to pedal up to 28 miles an hour with that bike, but then at 28, then the actual motor then would not assist anymore at 28 miles an hour. So we move on to class 3. You're going to see a picture of a class 3 bike in just a couple of seconds here. Carol and I, that's the bikes that we purchased. And so as we get to a class 3, the class 3 bike is intended, it's the same thing. It's a pedal assist, has a motor, but it maxes out at 28 miles an hour. And so the reason that's 28 miles an hour, and then the motor will kick out. Now, the one thing to remember is that all 3 of those bikes, there's not a restriction on class 1 and 2. You can ride them any place. Class 3, because it goes at 28 miles an hour, actually, depending on your state, depending on your locality, it may have some restrictions on how fast can you ride in your local trail system. Typically, you won't have a problem on a bike lane or on the shoulder of a road and stuff. And so the class 3 operates there. Now, all 3 classes, the motors that are involved in them are at 750 watts. So for a rider, you might say, well, what's that mean to me? Well, I'll make it simple. What it means to you is there's plenty of power for you to jump on an e-bike and do anything, go any place you want when it comes to riding. And so that's part of it's just one of those things I just wanted to share with you. There's so much information about e-bikes, it's incredible. So we're just going to hit the tip of the iceberg. The other thing I want to bring up is Century Code. In North Dakota's last legislative session, we were one of the few states across the United States that had not adopted when we talk about e-bikes. And so the Century Code actually brought it in underneath the DOT side. DOT represents everything from semis all the way down to a moped with bicycles identified, but they never identified e-bikes. And so this last legislative session, they identified the 3 classes, they gave the definition and any restrictions. And that's all I'm gonna just want to touch on that. So I want you to know that, again, depending on what state you go, there could be restrictions when it comes to e-bikes. So just want to make you aware of that. So now we have a photo up, and this is a class 3. And one thing about a class 3 that it has to have is it has to have a speedometer. So you have to know how fast you're going. But Doreen, if I could have you going that down to right in the middle, keep going down and down right there. Whoop, back up, just right there. That in that particular bike, both on Carol's bike and the bike that I ride, is your on-off button. So if you just press that button and hold it, this is the operations of it. Very simple, nothing complicated. You just touch that button and there'll be 5 little lights that come on if it's fully charged. There are little graph lights on there and there'll be 5 of them. They'll be all lit up in green. That indicates at some point you look at it, if it's at 4.3 or whatever, it's just an indication of where you're at with your battery charge. Now, if I can have Doreen go up to where the very middle, where my odometer is, right there. So that's equipped with, it gives you your miles per hour, it gives you your distance, your total distance for your trip, as well as your history trip or your history mileage. If you look at, and you can't see it, but on the very right-hand side of that, there are the 3 levels. There's 3 levels in this particular bike. So you press a button on the side, on the left-hand side, there's a little button there you press, and you go press, it automatically starts up in level 2. So you can kick it off, start pedaling, and then you can back off to level 1. Carol and I, we pretty much ride in level 1. And it's just, and again, I'll talk about battery life in just a second, but it also equates back to battery life, how long, how many miles, and all that stuff. And so then on the left-hand side will be a graph on that little odometer up there, right in there, yep. And on that area, there's a graph, and I believe there's 10 bars on that particular bike, and that indicates your battery strength. So as you start using up your battery, it will start to go down. You'll see it. Now, the cool thing is, unlike a car, when you run out of gas, you're pretty much done. You're stuck, right? With an e-bike, if you would run out of a battery and you're still a few miles from home, all you have to do is you can just shift down to be in the low gear and just keep pedaling. And you won't be left out there high and dry. You'll always have an opportunity to pedal your bike home.
Hopefully home isn't at the top of the hill.
And home isn't at the top of the hill, exactly. So that's a little bit overview. We also have a bell, going back to what Al was talking about. We have a little bell on the side, on the left-hand side. Yes, right there. And that little bell is really handy when you're out riding. You can, instead of always hollering, passing on the left, passing on the right, we just hit the little bell and it gives people a notice that you're coming from behind so you don't scare them to death. So that just is a brief operational overview of a class 3 bike, which whether it's this style or any other style, the requirements would be the same. So you're looking at distance. I talked about distance real briefly. This class 3 bike will have a range of 80 miles or before it needs a charge, or approximately you should be able to get 4 hours. Now, if you're in level 3, as high as it goes, you won't get 80 miles, because if you're pushing hard and you're using that motor constantly, again, it depends on your ride. You're going to have to kind of play with that, but you might get 60 miles, you might get 50 miles. But if you're using between 1 and 2 as far as your power level, you're probably going to be pretty close to 100 miles. I think one time Carol had over 100 and like 105 miles on her bike, using it intermittently throughout the week. So that's kind of gives you an idea for the range. Now, as far as the weight of the bike, typical e-bike will average between either 45 pounds and could go as high as 56 pounds. They're not light, to say the least, but they are such a comfortable ride. It's incredible how convenient, it's just so smooth when you ride them. And with the little motors, they're quiet. You just hear a little humming back there. And when we talk about costs, I know everybody's interested in costs, and it's not like when we were kids and we went and bought our first Schwinn, or we purchased our first Huffy, whatever it might be, and might have got it for $100, $150. In my research, looking back, the cheapest, the least expensive I found that had somewhat positive reviews was $1,000. And I know it might shock you, but what really is going to shock you is that Specialized just came out with an incredible brand new mountain bike that goes for $15,000. Yes, don't fall over. Yes, $15,000. And there are some cycling enthusiasts that I'm sure will be buying them off the shelf when they make them available. For Carol and I, the class that we bought, and it was a Specialized Vadel, our average between the two bikes, we average right around $3,200. And so you might say, well, gee, that's quite expensive. It is an investment, and that's how you need to look at it. It's an investment in you, and it's an investment in your health. And I want to bring that up when we equate it as being a value, because there might be some out there that you're right in the middle of looking at upgrading your e-bikes. There are others that maybe it was a struggle now to ride a traditional bike, and so you parked your bike, you no longer ride. By going back to e-bikes, it would give you again, it depends on how much you want to spend, but it offers you that opportunity to go back and now get back in the game again, and hopefully do something that you love to do prior to having to park that bike. So that's what when we talk about the benefit of e-bikes, it gets us off that sedentary couch and allows us to get back to things that we loved and enjoyed to do. All right. So I think we covered all that. All I want to do is I want to make sure that you research this. You know, everybody's different in your comfort level when it comes to e-bikes. And so you want to look at your best fit for you, both in your needs and also in your budget. And so there's so many options again out there. So you want to go in and truly take and invest in that. That's Carol's bike. It's nice looking. She enjoys riding it. Correct, dear?
I do.
She does. And that bag up there is exactly the same bag that Al just showed you. Has the panniers that fold out and everything. And so I might as well touch bases with that right away. So again, do your research. You got to study it. Now, the other thing too is, as I close out this section, I want to make sure that when you go test drive one, even if you're curious about an e-bike, go to your local dealer and ask to test drive one. What I want to make sure I mention this. Typically, when you go to a dealer, you'll get on a e-bike and you get to ride around in the parking lot a little bit. That truly is not an e-bike experience. If you're going to invest that kind of money, you want to work at the shop so they can put you in an area where you can feel as you climb. And you can feel as you start to pedal faster on a flat, how it kicks in and how it helps propel you. And so just to go around in a circle will not give you that same experience. Last summer, I had the opportunity to take a couple of friends, and we went out and we were able to take, and they were demoing a couple bikes. We took them out on a 5-mile path that had some climbs, had some flats, had a little bit of everything. And by the time we got back at the end of the 5 miles, all I wanted to do was share the experience with them. And what it ended up being is they pulled up to the cycle shop and said, who do we talk to about making our purchase? They loved them so much. And so they rode them all summer long. They rode them to Hawaii, to tennis, everywhere they went. And so I just want to mention that that's how quickly they fell in love with the ability or the availability of riding an e-bike. So it truly is, it's life changing. And So I just wanted to touch on those things. That's kind of the basic overview of the e-bike. Now let's move to our second section, and that is the health benefits. And part of that is whether you're riding your traditional bike yet or you're moving into your e-bike, I want to talk about the health benefits. So there was, the first thing is I actually have an article here. It was called the 8 Health Benefits of Riding an Electric Bike. And there are just a couple things. I want to take the direct quotes out of this because it says cycling about 30 miles a week has shown to significantly lower the risk of heart disease. And the other one was the first one when I talk about health benefits is to strengthen our cardiovascular system. And in here it says cycling is one of the best cardio exercises for people of all age groups and all body types. It not only helps burn calories and keep weight under control, but also helps build stamina and increase muscle and bone strength. And I highlighted bone strength because as we age, it's pretty common that we start losing bone density. And through cycling, we can actually kind of hold that off a little bit. The other is it's a very low impact exercise. So it's soft on the joints, which is important as we age. And unlike hard training in a gym, it doesn't put you at risk of overuse or sprains and strains. And so when you look at the benefits from a cardiovascular, you can see there's lots of benefits in that. The other thing is there's several. So it boosts your immune system. I was reading there that if you exercise a couple times a week, meaning if you ride your bike, and I'm going to address this by continually riding your e-bike for a couple times a week, it actually helps with your respiratory system and increases your opportunity not to have, respiratory issues. And so there is a benefit. As far as lowering your risk of type 2 diabetes, I want to tie that back to your loss of weight. So the key word here is consistency. It isn't just get on the bike and ride it for 15 minutes and that's it on a Monday morning and that's the end of it. You really have to create a schedule so you're consistent. So if you ride 3 times a week at 45 minutes per time, or you decide you're going to ride 3 times a week and you're going 15 miles and you set up a little circuit, whatever, but the key to any one of these to help improve your health is being consistent. And so when you look at as you lose weight, yes, if you are, have that, could be, the ability to have type 2 diabetes, this together in a combination could help that risk factor. So you could lower that particular risk factor. It also helps you get better sleep. Everybody knows that if we get a little exercise throughout the day, especially if we get to ride an e-bike, and it allows you or affords you the opportunity to ride it a little harder so you can exert yourself. And so it would allow you for better rest at night. Now, I think there's one of the areas it talks about is a reduce in stress. If you look back in our lives as when if we're retired now and we look back in our lives when we were in our professional careers, whatever that might be, and we look back, there was all kinds of stressors. There were the work stressors and we were introduced to a young family stressor. So you had combinations. And just because we retired doesn't mean that we don't continue to have some forms of stress in our lives. And so there's no better way to help manage that stress than to get out and ride for 45 minutes to an hour or longer. And that in itself allows us, it has some endorphins that kick in, it has some chemicals that naturally are released within our body that can help us, subside that stress level. And so there's, again, another health benefit. And the other is it's really, really good for our minds. We always talk about our minds and what do we say, let's read books, let's do things like crossword puzzles, mind games, whatever it might be so that, we continually to keep our mind sharp. Well, riding an e-bike will do the same. It will assist you in all the other things because it keeps you in shape. And if you keep your stress level down, it also can help from the perspective of, lowering your risk factor for dementia, Alzheimer's, all those kind of things. And so as you look through at this whole list of potentials for health benefits, there are a number of them. If you go back and you can pull up that article, 8 health benefits of riding on electric bikes, it goes into a lot more detail. Doreen sent me an article, sent Carol and I an article the other day, and it was from Next Avenue. And I just want to touch on this because it kind of brings us all together. It says, the title of that is Take a Spin on an E-Bike. And as I went through, there was a statement at the very top, and it says, older adults are riding more often and alleviating ailments, improving balance, which is important as we get older, losing weight, and benefiting overall health and wellness. And so that is referencing the opportunity to ride an e-bike. There's an individual in here that purchased an e-bike, and what he said is I purchased the e-bike to strengthen my stamina and breathing capacity as I am an asthmatic. He said, with my adjustments, the bike was a dream to ride, and I suddenly remembered all the joy I had as riding as a child. I started to lose weight and feel stronger as the weeks went by. And the emphasis I want to place on that is, I really enjoyed the fact when he made this statement that he started to feel like he was riding a bike when he was a kid. Just because we age doesn't mean we can't go back and remember what it was like, the freedom we had from, jumping on our bike and riding places all over. That was our form of transportation. And in today's world, we can make this our form of transportation again. And so I just thought that was a really good article. Another article is an AARP. And as you look at changes you can make, these are lifestyle changes. If you're currently not riding an e-bike, and you're looking into it, or as I said, if you're making an upgrade, the title of the article was an e-bike, would an e-bike get you pedaling again? Good question. Would an e-bike be enough to get you pedaling again, to go back and remember what it was like to be a kid? So some things to consider. We talked about consistency. The other thing is to maintain these health benefits. It's not important we get an opportunity to ride our bike outside, but think about all the months we have inside where we don't have the ability to jump on our e-bike and go outside and ride. So as I said, I was a cycling instructor. And so I want to just mention and toss that in there that you can maintain all your health benefits by either having a trainer at home and you ride all winter long, or you attend one of the classes. And so again, you can maintain your health benefits. Come spring, you jump on that e-bike and boom, you're gone. You're riding. You maintain your strength. You maintain your cardio. You maintain everything so that you don't start from scratch by leaving your e-bike sit in the garage for several months. So something for you to consider.
One thing I thought about when you're talking about increasing your stamina, I noticed when we rode last year, which is the first year we had our bike, Lynn's talking about those levels. I rode in level 2 a lot. And I shifted a lot. So it was like I was always working the bike and using the bike a lot. I noticed this year after riding all winter and going out this summer now, I very rarely go out of level 1 and I very rarely have to shift. So I know, even though I don't necessarily feel it, apparently I have changed enough or I've strengthened enough that the bike makes you accountable. So it's telling me that I have improved myself without having to see it written down somewhere. I can tell by the bike of how much I'm using it just by watching the levels on the bike. So you can tell yourself that you're improving.
All right, thank you. So now we got one final section. I'm sure we're going to be running out of time. So Doreen wants me to speed this up. Again, there's just so much information out there to share. And so I'm going to let Carol talk about basically why we call this section Just for the Fun to Ride. So Carol?
I think like Lynn said, he's a competitive rider and he and my son and some of my family members ride for competition and that's their enjoyment. I don't. I like to ride for fun, but one thing as a family, we still like to ride together. Well, I found that I could not keep up with him. So all of a sudden biking wasn't fun for me because they'd have to stop and wait or whatever. Well, they can ride their regular bikes and I can ride alongside them with the e-bike and still have fun and feel like I'm being included. We ride with our kids, we ride with our grandkids.
We rode in Colorado last year, and Carol had tried, riding in the mountains the year before, which turned out not to be such a fun time in a traditional bike.
We were riding up Independence Pass, and then like after a quarter mile, all I could do was push my regular bike. I could not get any go power to go up again. The next year with my e-bike, we went up to Maroon Bells, which was like a 2000
Vertical climb.
vertical climb, and they were riding their regular bikes. I was riding my e-bikes. We went 12 miles, and I have to say it was almost effortless to be able to go up the mountain with my e-bike and stay with them and enjoy the ride. Sometimes you can accomplish it, but you don't necessarily enjoy it. I enjoyed it the whole way. I enjoyed seeing the people beside me, being in nature, hearing the sounds of nature and not worrying about could I make it or not. It was no, I was making it just fine, and we just pedaled along.
And so that's was part of our excursions last year, which were fun. I want to touch on, because we're in North Dakota, I want to touch on the trail system. Regardless, I know there's people from all over the state of North Dakota that's on here, and every community is different, but we look at a place as we age, we're looking at places, where can I ride where I feel safe? And with the combination of trail systems throughout, regardless if you're in Fargo, Grand Forks, any one community, even in rural settings, you see trails that have been built over the years, old railroad beds and etc. Just here in the Mandan, Bismarck-Mandan area, we have 100+ miles of trails, both in the city and outside the city. And there are areas where you can go ride for miles and be safe. And so you can take your e-bike and you can go out, you can enjoy a ride. Peaceful of nature. You don't want to, in your communities, there are going to be areas that are going to be congested. There's going to be dogs. There's going to be, lots of people, a lot of other bicyclists, and just move away from those areas and find an area where you can ride and feel safe. You don't have to worry about getting run over. You don't have to worry about intersections, none of that. You might be able to ride 10 miles out, 10 miles back, comfortable, totally safe, and never have to cross an intersection.
And just quickly too, on the health benefits, when we're talking about, you can make that ride as hard or as easy as you want it to be. So you can still challenge yourself. We were just riding on Sunday too, and as we were going by, some friends kind of jokingly say, hey, you've got cheater bikes. It's like, yeah, you can use level 3 all the time, and maybe some days that's all you want, but you also dial it down. And I can say I still feel like I have a workout when I come in. I can feel it in my legs. I can feel it in my stomach. You still get the workout by however hard you want to push yourself.
And that's a good point, because we had friends that actually said, oh, you're on your cheater bikes. There's no such thing as cheating. As Carol pointed out, you get a great workout regardless. Here's an example. We got a photograph up here where I'm coming up out of the tunnel and I got to climb. All I had to do is just pedal a little quicker. The assist kicked in, and boom, up to the top. It was a piece of cake. And
it's just a couple of seconds. You're not riding hours or minutes in the higher gear. It just gives you that 3-second burst to get up that hill.
So as Carol pointed out, it allows us to keep up with our younger age group. As we close out this section in our presentation today, here's one with our motorhome. This is our home away from home all winter. We go down to Arizona as well and live in there. But a lot of times throughout the summer, we don't pull the Jeep anyplace. We throw the bikes on the back on the bike racks. We get to the campgrounds. We can ride in the trails, ride around the campground. We can go into little communities. And so it affords us the opportunity to just basically use our bikes. We don't have to pull any additional, like the Jeep or anything like that.
When we camp in Colorado, we're near our son. We're like 5 miles from him, a couple miles from town. We grab the bikes, we'd bike in to buy groceries. We'd bike over to his house. We don't need to take that extra vehicle. So we're hopefully saving some gas and
some green
that we're using up in the motorhome, I guess.
Now, I want to point out that one of the keys here for being, to me, it's successful is when you ride bike, find someone else to ride with, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a friend, a little group. And the reason is as we age, we don't want to lose those. We want to build on relationships and connections. and use e-cycling as an opportunity to go back and encourage your friends that maybe stop cycling to get back involved and allow you to go back and do some of the rides that you did from the past. And it's so important as we age not to lose that contact, because it's just good. It feels good, and we can encourage one another to, enjoy this together. And what's wrong with us at whatever we're age, as we age up, what's wrong with feeling like a kid once in a while and celebrating that at the end of the day? So Carol and I get ready to close, I have two quotes that I want to touch on. And I have a t-shirt, and I had this for years. It says people, and you've probably already seen this. It says people don't stop playing because they get old. People get old because they stop playing. And so I want to encourage you, look into the potential of owning an e-bike so that you don't have to stop playing, that you can continue to ride for years to come. And my mantra that I use in our cycling class and I use when I'm conducting our speed work group is, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Don't let age be a barrier. Continue to challenge yourself each and every day, and good things will come. Positive things will come. So with that, we thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Oh my gosh, you guys, that was really, really good. Thank you so very much. I really, really enjoyed the entire presentation. You did such a good job in filling us in on stuff. And we do have some questions though, and I do want to pose them to you. We have somebody who's already interested in purchasing an e-bike and says, do Lynn or Carol have a recommendation for a local e-bike dealer in Bismarck? So they're ready to go, ready to look at this. So I know you probably can't make store recommendations, but there probably are some places, right? So
there are 3 locations in Bismarck that I'm aware of. And so if Shields sells Trek, and I believe Larson Cyclery, I believe they're a Giant dealer. And then you have 701, and they're Specialized. They sell Specialized. And you bring up a great point. The point is you can go online and buy and purchase bikes, e-bikes, no doubt. But what you sacrifice is these individuals here are trained mechanics. They've gone to school to service and maintain an e-bike. And if you buy online and you bring one in, they won't have the parts. They won't maybe have their general knowledge is there, but every company has unique things. And so they're trained on their bikes. And so if you can get local service that way, and plus it's nice, regardless of which outlet you go to, it's nice to support them locally.
The other thing is when you have somebody local too, is they fit you for the bike.
Yeah.
So every bike doesn't fit all. There's many, many little adjustments you can do to make that ride even better. And so when you have someone here that knows how to adjust those bikes, if you buy it there, you just go in and say, hey, this hurts me or that hurts me. And they go, oh, and they'll grab a little tool and fix it for you.
Yep.
That is great. That is awesome. Good advice. And I know Al shared that too,
Yep.
Using the
That is, fitting is important. You will enjoy it immensely if the bike fits you. It will.
You bet. You bet. We have another question here. Is there a group of bikers for elderly in Bismarck or for older folks that you might know of?
So there are a number of, there's all kinds of different groups, but to target specific elderly. So there's right now on, let's see, Wednesday night, they call it's like class A, B, or C. They pretty much stay to encourage the C riders. And then there are a group of seasoned veterans that ride, but they're restricted. It's not about the A riders. It's about them mentoring other people. And e-bikes are welcome. E-bikes are welcome in all those classifications. And so whether it's a gravel bike, whether it's a street bike, because it's, you can get them in a road bike. They look so stealthy, you can't even tell it's an e-bike. But yes, that would be one area. And, and to meet and this particular group meets on Wednesday nights in front of the 701 parking lot.
And they have a Facebook page that you can follow. They'll post the rides.
Yep. On it's Bisman Cycling. And if you go to that, you can look on the Facebook, and it will list every week. They list where they meet and everything else.
And they have a volunteer leader that will watch the group to make sure somebody doesn't get dropped, that they stay together, or if you have a problem with your bike or whatever, they'll help you through it.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. Good to know that. Good to
We
know that.
rode last year when we got our e-bikes. So Carol and I rode with the group, and it's like no problem keeping up with the group.
Well, that sounds fun, especially in a town full of hills all over. You know, we've got lots of hills to deal with in Bismarck, Mandan. Love them, but you
The
know,
speed that you can bike is anywhere from, before on the regular bike, I averaged about 8 miles an hour. On the e-bike, I average about 15 with
Wow.
no effort. I've gone as fast as 25 to 30.
wow. Carol, your comments were so good. I really appreciate that. And then you said you ride all winter too. You said a trainer in winter, and does this thing go on a rack and you ride it inside or no?
No, we just use traditional bikes.
Okay.
Put them on. You wouldn't want to put this on a trainer.
Okay.
It wouldn't be truly, the benefit probably wouldn't be there. So
Right.
when we're talking about a trainer, there's a variety of trainers out there, from just a simple trainer up to a computerized trainer. And so you can, that's one avenue. And so it allows you then to take, and a lot of people will have an e-bike, but I bet they have a traditional bike in their garage, and they just take it inside and they can ride all winter.
Makes it a
Ah,
stationary bike.
Yeah. Or
Ah.
again, if you're already a member of, any facility that has, there's several facilities within Bismarck Mandan that have classes, not just the Y, but several others with instructor-led classes. And it's a great way to maintain, as I said, your wellness, your overall health. But you can
Absolutely.
transfer everything you do there and you're practicing, you transfer back to your e-bike in the spring of the year.
Sure. Well, and I like that you said too that you can get as much of a workout as you want. You can push yourself if you want to, but if you need to back off, or if somebody's rehabbing from something and they just need to take it at a lower pace, they can do that too. So that's really cool.
Keeps you out there, keeps you going.
You brought up,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Doreen, because there was a study where they took an individual, and I believe it was a 10-mile loop, and they first went around and they did their just a traditional bike. They had 155 beats per minute was what their heart rate was. They put them immediately on an e-bike. They did the same route and came around, and they had lowered they felt they had a great workout, but they had lowered their heart rate by 10 beats. And so it was beating at 145. Now, why was that critical? Because they were trying to keep it at a rate after they had just had a pacemaker transplanted.
Oh.
And so they were trying to keep them at a certain level. And so they were using that as an opportunity to show that they could maintain that range, still get the love of cycling, but through the use of an e-bike, maintain that range and continue to build their strength even with a pacemaker.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's fantastic. A couple other questions here,
Sure.
and if I missed this, how long a charge will allow you to ride? You said about 115 miles, like
No,
I won't even guess, but remind us how long a charge will go and how long you can ride on one charge. Like you go in your garage and you plug this in, I presume, right? And
We do.
then,
Yep.
okay.
and then when you're all done and it's fully charged, if it's fully charged, typically you can get approximately 80 miles per charge, but you're looking at pretty much like we ride at level 1.
Uh-huh.
If you're riding level 2, probably a little less. If you're pushing hard in level 3 and that motor's engaged constantly, you're going to then reduce it. So it might be 50 miles,
Gotcha.
but typically they say, when you look at the literature, 80 miles or 4 hours, somewhere in there. And the same, they judge mountain bikes. When I brought up about mountain biking, there are a lot of individuals that have parked their mountain bikes because it's just a little more difficult to ride on, like if you wanted to go out and enjoy the Mod A, or wherever you're mountain biking, even here in town, or wherever you are across North Dakota. If you found it and you parked it because it was a little more difficult, believe me, you get on there and you hit that little turbo thing and it will get you up and over those little, literally, it's unbelievable.
Well, and it's kind of a rush. And like you said, you do feel like a little kid again where things
Oh,
are
that-
getting harder and harder. This is getting easier and easier.
Yeah.
Oh
and
gosh, that's,
still gain benefits. I mean, it just in so many ways. So
yeah, that is cool. One last question. Do they recharge as you ride them? They
no,
don't, right? Okay.
these, no, these don't. They're not like a moped was where you pedaled, and a moped had the motor, and so you had a combination of pedaling, and no, they're not.
Okay.
It's based fully on, I've asked, I said, why can't you just create a,
Rechargeable.
well, no,
Yeah.
just in the frame itself, what's the word? Oh gosh, I can't even think of the word right now. But anyway, why can't you build it in so that, oh, solar panel. Why can't you
Yeah.
create the frame as a solar panel so that as you ride, it's charging? But that'd be quite over the top, I'm sure, right now. So
Oh, there goes
Oh.
our patent. Somebody's gonna steal our
somebody's
idea.
gonna steal our
Yeah,
idea.
there you go. Oh my gosh, you guys, this has been so great. Any last comments that you'd like to share with our audience? This has been awesome. I've learned so much myself, and I'm really excited to get on one and try one too, right?
I just myself think it's worth the investment. I mean, if you putting your budget together and decide, and as long as you make the commitment to ride, you're gonna enjoy it and get your money's worth out of it.
Just think of all the, if you can save just in your deductibles for your health benefit in 1 year, you could probably pay for a bike. And so you look at that, but my overall takeaway, besides the e-bike and the value of e-bike from a health perspective, it's really what I said at the end. It is a opportunity to continue to build or rekindle those relationships that you stopped because somebody they just stopped riding again.
Mhm.
And so the value of that and those connections, they're so important as we age up. They're important any time in our life, but especially, during this time and our maturing years, as we say.
That's right. That's right. And we want to be able to keep moving. And I love that comment too about,
Keep
the more
moving.
you move. Yep, absolutely. Well, gosh, this has been great. Thank you again, Carol and Lynn, for bringing us into your home and telling us about your love of e-bikes. I'm really enthused about it, and thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of other people are too. So pleased
All
to
right.
have you with us. And I also want to say thank you to my colleagues Lyle Halverson and Wendy Hogue, who are behind the scenes, for their assistance in today's program. Thanks again to Al Thompson, Carol and Lynn Beiswanger, and thank you all for joining us today for the online Biking Refresher and e-bikes program, part of the Passport to Healthy Living program for 2021.